Hey there, folks. I'm Matt Hansen,
And I'm John Johnson.
and you're listening to Planes, Trains, and Comic Books, the podcast where we discuss favorites we've reread, both classic and new comics we want to read, and everything else in between.
And here's the comic we picked this week.
Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Planes, Trains, and Comic Books.
Yeah.
Today we are, you might hear John. He sounds a little bit under the weather. That's because he is. And we're doing another separate episode through Zoom. So if the audio sounds different, that's why.
Sorry about that, guys. I got the vid again. But
God, John, weren't you being careful?
I was being careful, but I'm on the mend. That's what matters. So
Yes, that's true.
but luckily we have technology to continue this for y'all.
Exactly. So this week we read the newer comic that came out in America, at least. It's called Animal Castle, and this is, I guess, a sequel to Animal Farm. It actually is explicitly that. I found out as I was reading this, about halfway through, they actually say, like, on the farm it was like this, and in the castle it's like that. So I was like, okay, they're literally talking about Animal Farm. So this is supposed to be a direct sequel to Animal Farm, the book by George Orwell. And so this is like a French comic, right, John? You researched it a little bit?
Yeah, it's a French comic. This is by Xavier Dorson, and Felix Delip does the artwork. All the art, the covers and everything too. And man, yeah, it's good looking stuff. And so Xavier has worked on a couple stuff before. Nothing I had read, but but yeah, apparently he's been pretty up and coming now for a while. He's got several awards. I think he's got Eisner now too.
Okay, cool. For this one or for something else?
It might have been the one right before this one. This one,
okay,
definitely his like newest, but like it's getting it's getting popular. So
right, yeah. I did know, like, so this came out from Ablaze Comics, who I read their Conan stuff, and it's not called Conan, it's called The Cimmerian, which we did a comparison of Conan from America and Conan the Cimmerian from Ablaze. And so what Ablaze does is they take already published works that are in Europe, and then they publish them in America. So it's kind of like they already know that they're hits over there, or that they already know they're proven works. So then they can just print them over here, and hopefully they hit over here as well. So I think Animal Castle was a pretty good hit for them. It seemed to get a lot of notice when it came out, and I didn't even know what it was. I just randomly read it and actually did a review of it the week it came out, just because it looked cool, and I was like, oh, that's interesting. And I really liked the first issue. So if you want to check out that review, I think it was like 6 months ago or 8 months ago or something. It was on YouTube, but it's still up there. And but yeah, so like that's how I was aware of this. That's, I assume, how you were aware of this as well, John, right?
yeah, no, you told me that about it. You used to like, oh, check out this, and you showed me like the cover. I was like, oh, that's cool. And you were telling me, like, again, like at the time we didn't know it was a direct sequel to Animal Farm. We're just like, oh, it's like supposed to be similar to Animal Farm. And like the tag, well, I'm not going to say it now because like the tagline for this book, or excuse me, pardon me, the tagline for this was that on the farm all animals were equal, but in the castle some are more equal than others.
Yep.
And like just that alone, and then like I said, then I listened to you talk about the first issue, and I was like, oh man, I'm sold on this idea. Like, when are we doing this? And so yeah, it had to come out obviously a little more, so we waited on it, and so now we're able to finally dive into it, and I was really excited to read this one this week.
Yeah, me too. I wanted to find out like how good the series maintained, its storyline and whatnot. So with that being said, let's dig into this thing. So it's a 5-issue series that came out, and one thing I liked about this trade is there wasn't really, like, it didn't show the breaks in the issues. Like, I didn't know where the breaks were. There was only like one section that said like chapter 2. But that wasn't the second issue. That was like 70 pages in or something. So it was almost like, because in Europe they break they're sold as albums, like they're almost record album size almost, and they have like 60 pages usually in them. So kind of like Fantastic Four Full Circle.
Okay.
It's like that, where it's like that same size, where it's kind of the square, and it's about 60 pages. And so this was probably that. It was probably actually 2 issues in Europe, or 2 albums big. So, but for America, they put them in 22-page chunks, just to fit our format over here. And also, I don't know, did you notice the like slightly different way of it being, like the size of it in America or on the pages?
Mhm.
Because it's not formatted, like they had to scale it down to format or to fit on our
To
pages.
fit on, yeah. Yeah, you can
Yeah,
tell sometime every once in a while, but
mainly in the dialogue. Actually, this is one of the few comics I had to read in what's that called, panel view or whatever, where you have to
oh
zoom in
yeah,
on the panels.
same.
And yeah, because I like the words are just too tiny on like a, unless you have maybe one of those like magazine size tablets or something. But on my regular iPad, I was like, I can't read these. So that might be the only like caution there if you're gonna read it digitally. And it wasn't also like the scan transfer or whatever was not very precise for the zoom ins. So it was pretty blurry. Like when you zoomed in on the panels, the words were like, fuzzy or whatever. So it wasn't
Yeah.
the best experience that way. But if you buy the, graphic novel, it should look pretty normal. I would imagine. So, um, but that's what happens when you bring stuff over from Europe here. It's going to get scaled down a little bit to fit into our pages. But yeah, so we start off in the castle, and we get a little preamble where they kind of say like, oh, like you said, on the farm everybody was equal, but in the castle some are more equal than others. And then we start off right away with like an execution, which I was like, that's fitting. We get a chicken named Adelaide who is being accused of keeping an egg from the government, I guess, or whatever you want to say, the dictator,
Yeah.
the central storehouse, that you're all working for. And you're definitely not allowed to save anything that you make or gather. You have to bring it all to the storehouse.
Yeah, even if it's because she's saying it's her own egg, but they're like,
Right.
no, it's the community's egg. How dare you?
Exactly.
With a
Exactly. Well, it's not technically a chicken yet. So until it's like a chicken, and then that chicken can work extra hard as well. So, um, so that's like the beginning of this is pretty brutal, actually. Like I thought, oh, they're just gonna like yell at the chicken, and then no, these dogs massacre. So we should just kind of state the hierarchy. So in Animal Farm, the pigs were the highest, right at the end, and they walk on 2 feet in the end of that book, and they still walk on 2 feet in this one. But we find out that they were superseded by a bull that came in named what's his name?
Silvio. Yeah,
Yeah, Silvio. There you go. I was like, no, it starts with an S.
I almost said
Well,
Ferdinand.
he looks kind of like Ferdinand, so
That would be a very unique
yeah,
crossover.
different book. But yeah, so Silvio is the head bull of. He's like the dictator, right? He's like the Stalin or whatever. And then he has dogs that do all the like attacking and guarding and policing and all that stuff.
Yeah, very
And then
much his militia.
yes, and the pigs are still in. They still live in the mansion with Silvio, or like the main quarters of the castle, but they are like his servants. So they're allowed to like live in luxury, but they're the servants of him. And then everybody else has to work in the fields and the forest, gathering wood and rocks and everything to repair the castle. And they kind of they don't really talk about how the castle got made, other than like humans used to be here. Then at some point it became a farm, and at some point humans left completely, and the animals took over the farm, or took over the castle and made it a farm. So, and when they say farm, they just mean like everybody's gathering shit in there and like, bringing it in one storehouse. So, then we're introduced to like the main characters after that chicken is murdered by the dogs in front of everybody. So like of course you got to have public executions so that, everybody stays in place. They know what's going to happen to them. Right.
Oh yeah.
And so we meet the main character. Her name is Miss Bangalore. She is a cat. They call her Miss B for short, which we will call her from now on. And she's like just a normal white little alley cat, she calls herself, but just an average cat. She's got 2 kittens that she's trying to raise and keep from dying basically in this world.
Yeah, the father died in some kind of tragic accident. We don't know much more than that.
Yeah, we don't know. And then we get a goose that's kind of like the caretaker of the children, the kittens, and her name is Daisy, and she kind of plays a big part in this because she's kind of at the beginning when they watch this chicken die, she says like, this is we'll all remember this day. And Miss B says, oh, the day Adelaide died. And the goose says, no, the last day we did nothing. So like, there's already like revolution or revolution ideas, I guess, in the ether, in some of these animals. And apparently if they had later they reveal that like Silvio came to free them from the pigs' domination. So it seems like they already had a kind of revolution. So it's not like a foreign concept to them.
Yeah. It just ended up being more of a power overtaking another power instead of like, like they were kind of tricked. They were like, hey, he will work for us. And then when they got him in power, no, we're working for him still. So we're just working for a new guy. Hey, it's like that Who song, who's the new boss? Who's the new boss?
Same as the old boss. So, yeah. So then we see like what Mrs. B's day looks like. And basically she just has to haul rocks, like big cut stones from a quarry all the way back to the castle. Cause they're trying to build an area or like repair a wing of the castle so that Silvio's mate, I guess, his lady cow, his concubines can give birth, when it's time, in the whatever spring or whatever it is, and they'll have an area in the castle where they could be safe and I guess bear the children. So that's what they're all building towards, and that's why on top of their normal chores of like, we need to have stores ready for the winter and things like that, you also have to like have cutting rocks, and we got to lay 4 rocks a day. And keep in mind, this is a cat that looks like she's maybe like 10 pounds, and she's got to haul a 20-pound rock and like drag it over the ground and stuff. So we just see her kind of day to day, and like also we see the control that the dogs have throughout that day over everybody. So they're pretty harsh with if someone's slacking, they call them out.
I like that all of them
what were you gonna say?
I was just saying, I like that all of them have medals on, and I guess it's partially like to show them having like some kind of authority, and then also, but also it seems like a ranking of like the highest dog as far as like like he's the leader, number 1, and the number 2, because we get a little bit.
They actually call them that. Yeah, they actually call them number 1, number 2, and they have funny names. I thought like they probably gave themselves these names, after like whoever famous people they thought were or famous animals or something. But like. I can't remember what number 1's name is, but that was only one thing that kind of confused me while reading this, especially with the small text. Sometimes it would say like NO, like number, and .1, and I would think it'd say like no exclamation mark, and I'm like, wait, no to what? Like I don't know what. And then I realized, oh, it's number 1. Like it would trip me up sometimes. But we see like there's a lot of, especially in this first issue, there's a lot of setting up of a very traditional communist place, like governments, because there's a lot of things that don't make sense that you have to do, and you just do it because you're supposed to do it, and you're going to get in trouble if you don't do it. For example, Miss B brings her last stone up, and she needs to set it into the wall, and the dog is like, you have to set it into the wall right now, but it's cut wrong. And the dog's like, I don't care. Like physics or reality will bend to what I want, like you better get it in there, basically. And it's like, it's just, it doesn't work like that. There's an inch bigger than we thought it was or something, so like there's a lot of that kind of stuff. Like, I don't know if you ever saw the movie or the series Chernobyl on HBO, John.
I have not.
But that had a lot of like this, like we must, like we can't actually like raise a signal of alarm, because if we do, that will mean that we failed, and if we failed, that means that we're going to get in trouble and like die or whatever. So like we will just say everything's fine, and like maybe you guys should leave in the city next door, or whatever. Like like stuff like that. Like it's a lot of like double think, and like you're not allowed to really think for yourself. You're always looking to someone else to give you the order, because then they can be blamed and not you, kind of thing. So that's kind of what's happening in this first scene, where we see Miss B like, I can't do this, they have to recut it. And the dog's like, no, I was told you have to put 4 bricks down today, and if you don't, like, I don't know what's going to happen, but you better fucking do it. Like there's no option other than that. And if you don't, then it's like, reality will end. It's kind of like just unreason is what it is, and so yeah, it ends up the rock does fall from the wall, and that's kind of like the first confrontation. We see like how like just the day-to-day from Mrs. B, of her work day, and then we see her like day after work, where she comes home, and they all live in like the barn area, right? I think that's the main area that everybody kind of lives in, and we see there's some like strange characters in this for sure. Like there is a rabbit who's a gigolo, I guess you call him.
I assume he's the only male rabbit. Yeah.
Yeah. So his job is to just fuck all these lady rabbits, and they pay him for it. So he's really good at his job, and they love him too. Like they'll fawn over him and help him out when they need and stuff. He's literally like, the top rabbit in town. What's his name? I don't remember his name off the top of my head.
Caesar or Cesar.
Caesar, yes. I assume he kind of looks. I assume they made him look like Caesar Romero or something like.
Caesar Romero.
Yeah. So that was funny.
It kind of reminded me, him in particular. It made me also think, because he does like some procuring and stuff a little bit, as we learn throughout the comic, and so he kind of to me also came off as Max Bialystock from the Producers.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Like collecting things from a bunch of little old ladies, and like each one's like, "Oh yes, I love you, darling," and like, "Oh yes, thank you so much for that carrot. Oh yes, you're the only one."
He's definitely a player, and then they also make sure that we know that those rabbits have mates, because they say they have other mates later on. So he's not the only male rabbit.
Okay,
so
that's right.
He's just a gigolo that these ladies like to fuck. So it's kind of a weird character to like throw in there, but it's fun. Hey, this is a French comic, right? And that's how you know it is. These are normal things. You could be a gigolo in France. It's fine. Yeah, exactly. Hey, different strokes, right? But
No
so she judges him. Like as Miss B walks by him, she's like, that guy is a dirty, dirty slut rabbit, basically. And he kind of says something like, your kids are fine, like don't worry. And she's like, don't you ever talk to my kids. Like, I don't want you saying anything to my children because you're like a dirty, dirty sex rabbit. So
she tells him that like can he like keep it down like in the evenings because
yes,
she wants to sleep.
And we can all hear you through the box.
And he's like, you have to hear the sounds are like part of the way I know I'm doing a good job or whatever.
Yeah, like the ladies love it when I make them yell, because there's a line out of his box of other rabbits. So the more noise he's making, the more anticipation builds in the next rabbits and the next lady customers.
Oh my goodness gracious!
Yeah, it's a pretty interesting character, but we get like a nice little, okay, this is where they live. They live in this little corner of the barn. Miss B and her kittens and the goose named Daisy, and so the goose. We find out that they use buttons for money, which is interesting. That was one thing I was like, I don't quite understand how their money works and like what they're paying for and that kind of thing, but like but somehow they pay each other with buttons, and that is worth something. And then but they like each person has it's kind of like they're indentured servants working for like company script instead of actual money, because all their money, they don't get it. It's like collected, or they like there's an account with the government or with the center, and you go to that center and say, I would like a piece of wood and 3 eggs or whatever, and they say, well, you only have 4 buttons, so no. And it's like she doesn't hand them 4 buttons. It's just there's an account of how much she's made, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So and then part of that, she doesn't have enough food for rations tonight for the kittens. So the goose, who Miss Daisy, seems to have extra buttons, so she goes with the kittens to help out with the paying for the kittens to get food. And when they get there, we find out basically there's either is there no food, or there's just like they're cutting the rations. That's what it was, right?
Yeah, they're cutting rations.
Yeah, so like, oh, you can't get as much food as you wanted. Like we have to save for the winter, and if we don't like save up, then the wolves will all kill us, and that's why you need us. And Silvo, our great leader Silvo, he will protect us from the wolves.
Now sing the song about Silvo.
Yeah, and so they all have to sing like "Glory to Silvo," like he's a great president or whatever. Like they have this song that they have to sing. It's very patriotic. There's some themes in this where they're like, okay, they're trying to be like, it's nationalism that they're trying to instill in these animals for Silvo. And the goose gets very angry that they're cutting rations. So the goose, Daisy, goes up there and says, give us our fucking food, basically. And screw yourself, right? Screw your president and screw your band. Like, we're not singing this song anymore. And Daisy basically starts a little riot. Like, all the other animals are very hungry too. And so they start being like, yeah, we're with Daisy. And then she starts a mini riot. What?
Oh, no, I'm sorry. I'm just saying, yeah, like, why can't we have, why are you rationing the food that we pick so much? Like, why are we right by that? We helped pick it.
Yeah, like, this happened in Ukraine and stuff where they would take all the grain from Ukraine and then like put it in stores and then be like, oh, no, that's not your grain. That's our grain. And if you would like some grain, you can code to the, government store and wait in line and then ask for some. And if we have it for you, we'll give you some, but we probably won't. So, like, because you're Ukrainian or whatever. So like, this is like stuff that actually happened in real life, but it's like a little metaphor. We should also say that the art in this, we said how good we like it, but it's basically like a John Bluth movie or something, or like like it kind of reminds me a lot of the what's that Disney Robin Hood, the Fox Robin Hood movie.
Oh yeah, that's perfect.
Yeah, so I like that a lot. It definitely has a cool feel. So when all this is going on, like the chickens being murdered and all that, like, yeah, it's just it looks like a children's cartoon, but there's like horrible violence. So that's what happens. A riot breaks out. The dogs attack. They do give some warning barks at least, but the people are very angry, or the animals are very angry. So the dogs just start murdering everybody, and even some of the dogs get murdered by a couple of the I guess they're goats, or I think
goats and sheep, some of the bigger stocky animals.
Yeah, and so and we're left with a bunch of animals dead, and Daisy being like tacked to the door with a stick, and her whole like chest is ripped open, and she's dead, of course. And there's a Daisy that's been stuck in her neck, and it's like a warning to everybody, like, you fucking think you can just like say whatever you want and have a revolution? Well, guess what? You're gonna be dead just like Daisy. So that's one thing that happens. Like, Daisy becomes the symbol of the revolution, and what they do, of course, they tell like the dogs go and tell Silvio, hey, there was like a little revolt, but we stopped it, but like there were people that died and stuff. And Silvio has to go make an appearance and say, people, we must not do these things. And, I love you. I'm doing this for you. I'm protecting you. Everything I do is for you because you need protection, So that's why he's got to be a horrible dictator. And we also see that in this castle, he has all the stores he needs for food. He has champagne that he drinks all day long. And, it's like, where's he getting this stuff? But we definitely find out that we find out that all of the stuff that he has is stuff that he trades with someone else for all the stuff that they collect. So all the animals collect the wood and eggs and stuff like that. And then Silvio trades it later on for the stuff he likes, like caviar and champagne and things like that. So
yeah, food looks like dog food for his dog militia.
Oh yeah, fancy dog food for the dog militia, and that keeps them happy because obviously you want your enforcers to be happy. So that's kind of like how it goes for a while. Everybody's kind of upset about the revolt that happened, but Silvio thinks he's quelled it, and then he takes the stores, like I said, and he does actually sell it to a human. And we find out that the animals that were killed are actually sold to this human as meat. We don't know how the human like talks to this bull or anything. They don't explain any of that shit. But like, this human has made a deal with Silvio, and every certain couple of months he comes and there's like eggs and meat. And basically Silvio will, like, anybody who's a dissenter will magically vanish, and they'll say like, oh, they died of starvation or whatever. And then
they bury them in the they have a little like cemetery plot that they bury, quote unquote, the poor souls in. And
yes, but it turns out that they're actually selling them to this human to eat. So it's a very fucked up thing. And the human's like how come there's like all mangled and shit? But I'll take them, whatever. So that's kind of like we find that out. And also like he gives the bull like some kind of agricultural like 4-H award or something, like a medal, and the bull likes that. So it's kind of a weird like, okay, whatever.
Yeah, like he always he I guess him look like one of those like dictators that have like the chest full of awards, that just like, how did this one person get all of these awards?
Of course, yeah, they're all fake awards and everything.
Because it's yeah, so he just like, again, he has a there's a little like award around all of the dogs or whatever, but like the bull has the most awards and he has the most things around his neck,
and the fanciest looking ones.
That the pomp and circumstance of it. It is funny.
Yes.
Oh, just before we move on from this, I just wanted to say, right before they go on this adventure, I really like there is like an element of, this is probably,
well, not adventure. It's when they're selling. When they're selling.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry, but there's a this whole comic has a very adult themes running throughout it. In particular, this one gave me a very HBO comic. Like, I feel like this would be on HBO, mainly because there's way more, not the gratuitous, but very like, there was a lot of animal sex in this, way more than I anticipated. In particular, it was like, it was like flipping the page and then being like, what's going on? And then realizing it was the king having sex with one of his steer ladies. And then like, so someone entering and he's like, what's going on? Like, how, basically, don't you knock or whatever? And I just thought it was funny.
And it's like he's like, and even like he's mounting her from behind, but you don't see like, graphic or anything, but it is very like, oh my God, this is
but it's
yeah, it looks like a child's movie. So,
exactly. Yeah. So it's just like, whoa.
Yeah. So
it's funny to turn the page and see that kind of stuff.
For sure. Yeah. That was very shocking. And then also like the rabbit, the gigolo rabbit is always talking about his ladies and sexual stuff. So that was like an interesting thing too. But the main thing that like happens that really starts everything for real, like we already had the little mini revolts, but nothing really came of that. We could just tell the animals are not satisfied, right? But out of nowhere, like part of the in the trade-off that the bull makes with the human, he brings a cart back, of caviar and champagne and stuff, and on that cart is a little rat, and this rat is the sower, the spreader of revolution ideas or whatever, right? But like a different kind of revolution. This rat is basically Gandhi rat. He when he gets to the farm and he does a play one night in the barn, or not the farm, when he gets to the castle, he does a play one night in the barn, and he actually like has like a little Gandhi like puppet that he talks about when he's like, oh, when I was in India, there was a great man who defeated an empire by doing nothing and like just peacefully protesting and not fighting with weapons or fists or anything. So he tells this story, and that's what sparks this whole revolution to start, right? So at first, in this first little section, the dogs actually see it. And I think, he just did like a normal, like, I'm coming to the farm, there's a show. And people came, including dogs, and the dogs saw it and were like, that is obviously like, you're making fun of the king because there's like a puppet king that gets overthrown in the play. And so the rat has to run away. There's a big chase scene, and eventually the dogs catch him. And I will say this, the rat is all peaceful and everything until he gets bit by a dog, and then he stabs the dog in the eye with his little walking stick. Or it's actually his Gandhi stick. It's like the head of Gandhi that's on like a pole. He stabs that pole into one of the dog's eyes, into number one's eyes. And so he's willing to fight when he's, cornered at least. But for the rest of this book, he's preaching like nonviolence and all that stuff. So he gets injured. Like I said, the dogs think that he is drowned because they find his glasses on like a lily pad with some blood. But he actually escaped with just like a broken, busted leg. And Miss B finds him and takes him back to, I guess it's like the attic of the barn. That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, there's like kind of like a special way to get into this attic area. They say it's too small for like the dogs to get into this area.
Yeah, there's like a plank that you have to walk across. It's all rickety, and so the dogs won't go on it. So it's the only way in or out of this attic area. So they put the rat. Did I say rat or not? It's a rat, right?
He's a rat. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's
So
a
they
rat.
put the Gandhi rat. What's his name? Do they say his name? I don't remember.
Yeah, what is his name? It is Old Gray.
That's right. They call
Al,
him Old
Al,
Gray.
I think his name is Gold Gray Asler or Asler, but it's
Okay.
they call him Old Gray for the most of the comic.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So the only people that know that this rat is alive at the moment is Miss B and her rabbit buddy, that she's warming up to slowly because he keeps watching the kids for her now that the goose is dead. And so her gigolo bunny is like warming up to her, you know. And I was kind of interested. I'm like, are they going to have them have like a relationship, or like, are we keeping this, you know, in the genus, or what are we doing here? Like, because they definitely get like friendly throughout this whole comic, right? Like,
Yeah.
He's always watching the kids love him. So yeah, there's definitely.
Yeah, I think so, but I mean, I don't know. We'll see. There isn't enough weird stuff in this that who knows. But
Who
I
knows?
don't
Well,
think,
so far, all the sex has just been between the same species. So, yeah. So anyway, they keep this rat, Old Gray, up there, and the rat starts talking to them about like what they could do for revolution. You know, because like Ms. B asked, like, was that story real? Was there really a man who fought a king and was able to like overthrow him without any fighting or violence? And the rat tells her, yeah. And so he sets up a plan of like what they can do to start off, and what they do. They work their normal stuff. They're not trying to rock the boats, at least during the day, and so no one is noticing them. But at night, they go out and they Banksy that shit. They put graffiti of a daisy everywhere, and Daisy the goose ends up becoming the symbol of this kind of resistance. So they draw like a daisy flower everywhere on like the rock walls, and then like people find it. They're like, "What the hell?" And you know, this just shows like, you know, badness to the king. You know, Silvio's like, don't like, how dare they do this? But they're also kind of, they don't have any retaliation in this, which I thought was kind of interesting. Like, they're bound by their laws, which I was like, I guess. Like, I mean,
well, it's partially not, and this is where we kind of see the animals and like kind of like where their heads are, and as far as like I would say level of intelligence. And that's one thing I really liked about this is in particular the dogs. So you have the number one dog and the number two dog as far as like, you know, the hierarchy of like um you know,
the pack or whatever.
the sheriff and the deputy or whatever. Yeah. And it's really interesting because like so the king puts a lot of faith in his number one, and the number one is very much like the like they toy with it and they show it a little bit each time, a little more, that he is like very much like a act first, not like a, you know, not street smart, uh not very wise, just very much like act first, you know, round up people, like I don't care, like kill people if we have
Yeah,
to, like
murder
let's do
them.
stuff. And you can, yeah, and then you can see that the number two dog is very much more like it's been, he's been seeding this the whole time too, is like you know, maybe that rat wasn't dead, and maybe, you know, I feel like I could still smell him, maybe we should do a little more hunting. And they're like, no, he's dead, we saw his glasses.
Yeah.
And the number two is like, you know, he starts speaking up a little bit, and we're, you know, we're getting a sense of like somebody, you know, they're definitely like somebody knows that there's something more going on, and but like they don't want to like entertain or hear all those ideas yet, because they're like, oh, you know, we're focused on, you know, we know how to run this, we've been running this.
Right.
So
Yeah.
I just
Well,
thought it
one
was
thing,
interesting.
yeah, one thing I like is, and this is kind of how it is, like towards the end, like it turns out that while we say like, oh, Silvio uses the dogs to like, or like the dogs are like do his dirty work kind of, but he's aware that if he ever has to like get in the good graces of the other animals, all he has to do is be like, I didn't kill anybody, that damn dog did, you know, like, so it's like his blame. Like he can place the blame on these dogs. If anything ever gets totally out of control, he says, look, I told them no, but those dogs are mean, you know, they were biting me and stuff. They could even like, he could just lie to the people and say they were out of control and it was this guy or whatever. So, it's interesting to see like how the hierarchy will move around. You know, he's able to place blame on these dogs and they're just following orders, which we've heard that before. But I will say they made the dogs a little too sympathetic for me in some points. I was like, yeah, they're like literal like Gestapo murdering people and stuff. And like, I feel no sympathy to these animals whatsoever, even their children and wife, which they make sure that you see, like one of them is like, has a kid and they're like, Dad, did you like round up anybody today? And like, I was like, Jesus, these are like Holocaust camp guards or some shit. And like the kids, the dads come home after a hard day at the camp, and they're like, the kids like, what'd they do today? Like, was anybody bad? Did you arrest them? Like super fucked up, I thought, but like, I don't know, they made them a little too sympathetic at the end of me, for me at least. But and we also see one of the things that happens for the. Oh wait, what were you gonna say?
Oh no, I was gonna say like I think they see that in there just more, pardon me, just more to see about because throughout this it's also Miss B's kind of slowly getting like um not not becoming what I mean, she's becoming a rebel, of course, because she's trying to gather people to cause, but again, this is all very much still like a pacifist cause.
Right, yeah, it's pacifist.
Yeah, they're like getting people to like come together to show solidarity together. So when they show the solidarity together, and they're doing it in front of the people in power, that showing them that even though that they are getting shit on, that they're not going to like it's not, they're gonna let it like bother them to their core. They're still gonna be able to be fine and be together. And
well, not only that, but that the dogs could join them. They will still be nice to the dogs if the dogs let them, help them out or whatever. Like that's why I was like, I don't think. I mean, like, sure.
Well, no, and I think that's what so they're trying to seed for that. But then I think I think at least to me, it felt like they were trying to show like maybe the dogs are redeemable, but then it seems like they're not, because they do.
By the end of it, yeah.
As we get more towards the end, it really seems like even the one that she kind of like is able to talk to for a minute doesn't seem like he's going to come around ever. Like, right. We'll get more, but like I definitely want to keep reading on this. So.
Right. So one of the things that they do, I guess, to like show how all the other animals are now kind of seeing the daisies around the castle every day and going like, oh, like there's something going on. We're kind of in this together. Someone makes a fake, like a pinata, we'll say, of Silvo. It's like a bucket, but it's got Silvo's face on it, and it says like strike the bull, like choose your stick and hit the bull. And it's kind of like hidden in a back area. And this kind of shows like the animals at first are like scared too, and they're like, I can't hit the bull. But then they slowly come around as they see more and more daisies go up and the anger that Silvio has towards them. And so eventually there's just a line of these animals hitting this bucket, like showing how it's done kind of thing. And so that's like the symbolism of them joining the cause, essentially. Is they're ready to take on Silvio with Miss B, and they actually let Miss B kind of lead them. And then we cut to winter, like kind of, I guess we go from summer to winter, right? So there's no, I don't even say if it's autumn or does it start out in autumn, but it's already snowing, so I don't know if it's considered winter. But
yeah, I mean, it kind of, I don't know. It's the leaves were different colors, kind of in general.
Yeah, I guess at the beginning they were kind of different colors, so maybe it was late summer, early autumn, and then now it's winter. So
yeah. Because she does that one thing where she collects leaves and then paints on them, the daisies, to like
right, yeah,
daisies everywhere.
Yeah, so that's like one of the way they spread the daisies around is they paint them on leaves, because the dogs are out, scouting at night now because they're waiting for a graffiti person to spray the daisy, and then they know who to kill. But Mrs. B paints daisies on all these leaves and then releases them from the top of a building so they can't like find out who did that. But there's daisies everywhere on these leaves, so that's one of the clever things. And then, so now we got like a force building, right? Like secretly in the shadows of this barn. And all of them, they go through like who do we elect as our leader kind of thing. And Miss B basically takes control, where she's like, she doesn't say I'm going to be your leader, but they all agree she should be the leader once she kind of gives her pacifist message of, we're not going to do it by force. We're going to do it by not fighting. We're going to do our jobs well. We're going to collect all the wood that we need. Because so now that it's winter, they not only, I thought this was funny, this is very like double think, or like what a government would do if they're doing this, but not only do they have to do their normal job of like, oh, I got to bring stones from the quarry to the wall, I also have to collect wood on my free time. And it's called free time because that wood is given to the government freely. So, so it's not like actually free time, it's just free time that you're giving the government, basically. You're giving free time to the government.
Yes, and then
um,
if you want wood for heat, you have to pay the government in
for
buttons
that wood,
Yep.
for said wood. Yeah. So, and this is the only thing I wasn't sure exactly. Her message eventually is, we'll do our jobs, we'll get the wood, but we're not going to buy the wood back from them. So the idea was that they're going to sit in the cold, and eventually they're going to suffer so much that their work is going to suffer. Like they're not going to be able to do as much work because they're sick from the freezing cold because they're not buying wood to stay warm, and that is going to affect the stores in the castle, kind of thing. And that's going to then affect Silvo, and he's going to be like, why aren't they working? So I just thought this was interesting. I wasn't sure exactly, like, so, but they still have all the wood, right? Like later on they show the wood missing, like, oh, there's not a lot left. But I guess it's because there's enough of them sick that the stores are used up because they're not replenishing them fast enough. Is that what it is?
I think that's what it's supposed to be, is that the dogs and the cat and everybody in the castle are using the wood,
Oh,
and
okay.
they're using it up,
A lot of it, yeah.
and yeah, and because they're not picking it up in their free time anymore, and they're not like adding to it because they're sick, that's why it goes up so quick.
Right. Okay. So, but the thing is, like, this is definitely taking a toll on the citizen animals, right? Like they are all freezing. They're having to stand in the cold or like sleep in the snow. And I was like, I mean, these animals will be fucking dead, like in real life or whatever. Like,
Yeah.
like there ain't no way the like house cat is just sitting in the freezing cold with the snow.
But these are normal animals. These are strong-willed, human-esque animals on.
Sure. And so eventually,
Castle, man.
yes. So eventually, Silvo finds out, like, okay, they're still like dancing and stuff at night to stay warm and stuff. So Silvo's like, hey, fuck that barn, burn that barn down. Then they won't have any shelter. And so they do that. The dogs burn the barn down, and they make it seem like we were just bringing you guys fire because we thought you were cold. And a spark came out of nowhere and landed all over the hay, and so it lit the whole barn on fire. And so they end up having to sleep in the burned down barn, and it's still freezing. Now they have no shelter, no cover over them, and we get like one of the saddest parts of the book, I would say, where like there's the two goats, and there's like a girl goat and a boy goat, and they're mates, and the girl goat decides, like, I'm gonna go pick a piece of firewood outside of when we're supposed to do it. So she sneaks out to like get a secret piece of firewood, and the dogs are waiting for this, right? They're waiting for someone to go outside of bounds because I don't know why this is, because this isn't how it works in the real world, but the dogs are like holding the line for the law. So like they can't do anything until they actually break a law. So they're waiting for one of the animals to slip up and not just do their job. They're like, okay, so once this nanny goat goes to get a piece of wood outside of the time she's supposed to, they spring on her, and we get like this is what I was saying, like with the dogs being like sympathetic. The main dog number one, tells dog number two to bite the nanny goat, and the dog number two is like, well, I don't, what, like, why, like, I don't know, there's like this thing, but those dogs killed so many animals before this with no remorse whatsoever. So I don't know, I guess it's maybe they're seeing the suffering and that's getting to them. I can only think that's what they're trying to get the point across. But
Well, see, I thought it was him as being the like smarter one. Is like, no, we shouldn't just kill her. We should take her in and like put her on trial and like make a to do of it. Is what that's the way.
Oh, okay. I took it to mean like, no, we should,
him as being the smarter dog.
Oh, I thought they were showing like he's kind of feeling bad and Merciful's not murdering her here. Merciful's bringing her back, and she'll get like a slap on the wrist or something, or But anyway, that goat gets bit on the leg and ends up dying. The cat, Miss B, tries to save her at night, but it doesn't work. And her husband, or the goat's husband, is very like upset, of course, because his mate's dead. And this is like the little seed or whatever that kind of grows to the end of the book, where like it plants a seed that will pay off at the end of the book, on the last page. So that goat is very angry at these dogs, and but he can't really do anything. He still follows the message. He even tries to like kill himself potentially, like by walking off a cliff, but the cat stops him. And then he just kind of, fine, I'll do what you want, and we'll be passive. God damn it. So they all continue to be passive. Eventually, the dogs and Silvio come up with, okay, we have to, this is getting ridiculous. The wood's burning out. We need them to collect wood and everything, but they're all sick. So we have to give them wood, whatever's left in the stores, of reserve, and then they can get better, and then we'll start doing more. So we will offer them like we'll give them a fake offer of like, bring us your leader and you can talk to Silvio and he will negotiate like a cheaper cost for the wood, because the animals want the wood for free. They're saying we're working for it, we should get it for free. And so Silvio's like, no, we'll give it to you like half price wood, right? The 2 buttons instead of 4. Right? That's a good compromise. So the dogs end up, one of the dogs, number 2, like you said, he's the smart one. He's already figured out that the leader of this is Miss B. So he tells her like, meet with us. You're the leader. We know it. We're not, or I'm not stupid at least. And, meet with us and we'll negotiate. So she goes to meet with Silvio.
Your people are suffering. Do you want them to keep suffering?
Right. And so I like this part where the pigs are like bringing her into his room and they're like, don't look at him. Don't stand up around him. Don't turn your back to him. And she's like, And then like,
don't turn your back. I love that.
Yeah. And then the second she walks in the room, she's like not sitting. She's looking straight at him, like, and she's not negotiating at all. She's just like, we want free wood. And then he's like, no. And then she walks away and shows her ass to him, basically. So like nothing really gets solved, but she's just like, fuck you, is kind of what it is. But like we are seeing, this is costing not only the cows and the dogs and the bull in the castle. Like imagine they still have some stores, like they're still using wood to make fires, but it's just not as much as was before. But the animals that were, fighting or in the resistance, they are literally freezing to death and dying, and there's problems. So we're at like, this is kind of like the pinnacle where I was like, I wasn't sure exactly what they were saying here, like what the message was, but the cat, Miss B, is left with like the option of seeing her children die and freeze to death or buying some damn wood for half price. So the rabbit, the gigolo rabbit, what's his name again?
Caesar.
Caesar. He's like, just buy some buttons. Is it worth it if they die, kind of thing? And she's like, okay, like I'll do it because she's a mom. And so they take the button, or she takes the buttons, goes to like the little town center where you buy wood. And as she's about to buy a piece of wood, Silvio's like being talked to by his girlfriend just before this, or his concubine or whatever. And she's like, why don't you go out there and give them what they want? Give them free wood, become the hero, right? And then also give them a scapegoat that you can use to say like, it wasn't me. I am good, the nice ruler Silvio. I gave too much power to these damn dogs. And number 1 is the one who was bad. He went behind my back and murdered a bunch of people in my name without me knowing, kind of thing. And so he does that. He comes out all nice right before she buys the wood. He comes out all nice and like she's about to buy the wood, but he's like kind of interrupts it. So he doesn't see her actually try to buy the wood, I don't think. And then he says, hey, everybody, like, it's me, your benevolent leader, Silvio. And guess what? I have decided you're right. All the wood is free. And this fucking dog right here is the reason.
This asshole.
Yeah, he's the traitor. And Silvio actually stabs the dog. And the dog tries to say, like, but I was just following orders. You were the one who told me to do it. And Silvio's like, silence. And then he stabs the dog with his horn and then like hits the dog into the crowd. And this is the seed I was talking about with the goat. So the goat sees this, the husband goat, that his nanny goat died earlier, and he ain't holding back. His anger has been festering, and they see blood and they go for it. And I thought this was an interesting way to end this, because Miss B is like, no, don't give into your baser, violent urges. We're no better than them, kind of thing. And those animals don't give a fuck. All of them. She is the only one. There's not even like her, not even Caesar, who's been with her the whole time, can hold back the anger that they feel for this dog. And they tear this dog apart and murder him. And that's where we leave it with that. Like, that was the winter. And I was like, what? That's how it ends? But John tells me that there's actually more issues coming out in France, and they haven't yet translated it and brought it to America. So that's the ending of this book. It leaves it with that dog being killed and her message of peace being tainted.
Kind of shattered, yeah.
Yeah, shattered at the end. So, John, what would you give it? What did you think?
I love this. This is definitely my story. I already loved Animal Farm. Is one of the books I really loved when I was younger. And so yeah, this was a really cool idea to like expand upon that. And whether whether I know they're saying like it's kind of like a direct sequel basically, but even if you just pick this up, like
Yeah,
you can kind of
you don't need to know Animal
yeah,
Farm to know this. So.
exactly. So yeah, I was very engaged in the story. I was in it the whole time. I like the character building in this. I like um it's very, this to me is very Star Wars Rebels like Rising. It is very like I said, it's got like had like kind of like some Game of Thronesy HBO elements, but it also had it just the this just this sweet mom that's just like going with her day by day, and then kind of like trying to become a leader in a peaceful way of like trying to overcome this horrible dictator, this horrible object in front of them. And then yeah, like you said, building there to the end of this, where yeah, the guy throws the dog and is like, oh, do with him what you will, like
Right.
far be it for me to deprive the people of their justice.
Hmm.
It's just he's a fantastic villain in this, and I loved every bit of it. I love the art in this. Like you said, it's very much like animated, kind of like 90s, 80s John Bluethy, dark Disney, very like cutesy animals, and then like, oh shit, like what just happened? Like that
Real
animal
stuff's
got
going
ripped
down.
apart. Like it real stuff going down.
Oh, I will say
I loved
one thing that
everything
was
about
funny.
this, and
One thing that was funny was when whenever Silvio was having sex, or whenever he was about to have sex with his concubine, he would say, "I'm coming." And I was like, is that just a translation error, or like not, he wasn't in the act when he was doing it. He would just be like I'm gonna come have sex with you, but he would just say I'm coming before he did that. So I just thought that was funny. I don't know.
yeah, I think I noticed that on one of them.
Yeah, yeah.
I loved everything about this though. So much so that like I said, I kind of went I went to like look, and I was like, is there more? Where is this going? Like I need to keep reading on this. And I
Right.
saw that the yeah, I guess the part 3 of the like, I guess it would be the next
Album.
album, yeah, in France is done and out. Like you can actually read it now, but it's just not translated. It's and I like it's the Chateau de Annumle. I don't know how you pronounce that in French exactly. I'm sure I butchered it. But yeah, they finished part 3. It's like there's a little, apparently there's a little more resistance stuff that goes on. And then like as a show of like force, like some of those people get imprisoned, and that's all I know a little bit. And so like I'm like,
Hey,
oh,
spoilers. Hey.
it's in the description thingy.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Like just the overall. That's all I know. Oh yeah, so no more than that. But I'm ready. I want them to do more. I'm probably, as we post this, when we do, I will probably tag all of them and be like, when are we getting more?
Right.
And you want to send it to us and we'll review it, because I'm down with this story, and this has definitely been one of my favorites that we've read this year. So
Cool. So what do you give it?
I'm gonna give this one a solid 8. Like this is definitely, like I said, it's one of my favorites this year. Is super strong, intro, engaging. It caught me. Made me want to read more. I love the art. Um, yeah, I loved it. This is fantastic.
Awesome. I thought that this was pretty, like, the story of it would have been better to me if it wasn't so closely tied to Animal Farm the book. Like because it was like literally a sequel, like it said it was a sequel, even in like with the pigs and all that stuff. I was constantly judging it against the actual book Animal Farm, and like what George Orwell wrote about, things like the philosophical things that he was talking about in Animal Farm compared to the philosophical things that this author's doing with Animal Castle. So I personally would have liked if it was maybe like a spiritual successor, instead of like we're actually making this a direct like sequel to that.
Yeah.
Because I personally don't think so. Like some of the things that George Orwell put in that book are very explicitly like anti-communism and things like that. And then in this book, there wasn't that as much. There was actually some like pro-communist stuff, or at least like the socialist side of it, I guess. But then it was like, but we want to, and we definitely want to interject that pacifism aspect into it. But I will say that they did a lot with it, where they like at the end when like the dog gets murdered and everybody's like, yeah, fuck that dog. I was like, oh, I did not think that that's where they were going to go. Like, so I'd like to, if they're going to interject those kind of other philosophies in it. I would have liked them to separate a little bit more from the original Animal Farm, but I did like what they did. Like, it wasn't like they were pushing their own agenda, politics or whatever, or philosophies, but it was like that was in there, and then they were giving you like different things that you didn't think would show up because you thought they were like, oh, we're hardcore pacifist, and that is the message behind this book. But then, like, at the end of it, it's like, oh no, they like murder this dog. So it's like, oh, okay, like it's going a different direction than I thought. So I liked that. I liked that there was, not just a full push of my philosophies or whatever from the author, but and they like messed with maybe not even what he thinks with some of those philosophies, even what the other animals are saying, and there were different points of view that I liked. But I would have liked to see a little bit of bigger separation from the actual Animal Farm book, just because that was going in my mind the whole time. Once you say like this is Blade Runner 2, now I'm comparing everything to Blade Runner. Like that, now I have this in my head. So, but if it was just like, oh, this is like kind of like what is that? There's the Christmas Story, and then there's the Summer Story movie. I don't know if you ever saw the Summer Story with Charles Grodin as the dad, and like the kids play with tops in the summer.
Yeah, I'm familiar with it. Yeah, it's supposedly supposed to be like an actual sequel, but
I mean, it is an actual sequel, but it's a spiritual sequel because they don't mention any of that shit from Christmas Story. It's just the same characters, and they have the same names, I think, but they don't like bring up anything from before. So I would have kind of liked it like that, where it's like this is a separate thing, but it is loosely connected to those ideas, But other than that, like, I thought this was a great book. The art is amazing. Like, I think that's probably the most fantastic thing about this book is the art. The writing, the story is like really engaging, and you want to find out what happens next and like where's this going, because you're always, as of course, as you're reading this, you're like, fuck that bull, and like hopefully he gets overthrown. But then when she's like, it's gonna be peaceful, I'm like, okay, how's this gonna work? Like at any point the bull could change the laws. Like that was the only thing I found. Like you kind of just have to go with the limitations they put on the castle itself, like the story, because like this whole thing wouldn't work if it wasn't like we only have a certain amount of animals to work, right? So like if you had Russia and 30 million people, well, it doesn't matter if 25,000 of them stop working. They can go to a labor camp and the rest of them can work, So like, like if you have an infinite supply of people, it doesn't matter. But this was like, okay, we're containing it to the animals in this castle. So that's like one of the MacGuffins. You kind of have to like, okay, I'm gonna accept that. And then also like the concept of like the dogs and even Silvio going like, the law says this, and it's like, yeah, but you make the laws. So like what they would do is just be like, it is now illegal to not get wood. It's not free time. It's you have to do it, and then they would just arrest you if you didn't do it right or whatever, So like they would just change the laws to make it illegal to do whatever. And then also there was like it's very well known that like in these authoritarian states that like your neighbors are generally not your friends. So I kind of wish there was like a little bit more of like there's some other animals that are maybe shady. Like I thought they were going to go there because the nanny goat, I think at one time is like spying on them talking to the rat in the like attic where they were hiding him. And I thought, oh shit, that goat's going to be like, bah, I'm going to spy on you. I'm going to tell on you. Right. But like it did not, it ended up like joining them. And so I was like, oh, it would have been better if there was like a little bit more like subterfuge going on from like their neighbors and stuff. And it wasn't all the animals that are like all together on this. But it's kind of like this is a simplified story or simpler story than that. So I get why they did it. And it is, I would say this is like a kid's story, except for like the sex stuff in it or whatever. So like or like the horrifying violence towards animals. But like, yeah, like it definitely has that feel where it could be like if you just tone those elements down, you could just make this into a kid's movie or something. But or you just keep that violence in there and make it like Watership Down or some shit, like those violent 80s children's movies.
Was there 4 kids that would just scar them for life?
Yes, yeah. I mean, I remember the first time we saw Watership Down, I was like, oh my God, those rabbits are murdering each other. Like, this is the coolest movie ever. But yeah, so I liked it. I think there were parts I was like, I kind of had to suspend disbelief just for the story's sake. But overall, I like this book a lot. And I think it's definitely one of the gems that came out this last year. And out of nowhere from like an indie publisher too. And I really like that this is a European book. I would love for more European stuff to get reprinted over here. Like all the Conan stuff that Ablaze prints is also European.
Oh, nice.
And so they just bring that over here and reprint it. And so I'm buying all that. Also, like Sarah Lone and a couple other books that Sumerian Press is putting out is all now like from Europe as well. So like there's more European stuff coming over here getting reprinted for America, which I'm really liking because it's just a different thing than what's normally on the shelves. So
Oh yeah, for real. And I was just gonna say I liked what was the Black Sabbath we read? I remember that one.
Yeah, Black Sad, that's another one. Like that's getting reprinted over here in hardcover, but that's actually coming out in like the album size. I kind of wish they would put these out in the album size like that they were, in Europe. But beggars can't be choosy, right? I'll take what I can get. So yeah, I'm gonna give this one. I'm gonna give it a solid 7. Like I enjoyed it. I kind of wish there was a little bit more, less suspension of disbelief. Like I had to like just shut my mind off at points. Where like, okay, we're just going with the story. And then also like a lot of that was because they were like I was comparing it to Animal Farm, number 1. So like that's kind of just what they set me up for in my mind, at least, like by saying it's a sequel. So yeah, I'm gonna give it a 7. Now this being Christmas month, December, it's the holidays. We got some special stuff coming up for you guys. We actually have 2 Christmas specials. One is going to be released on Christmas on the regular main podcast for everybody. And then the second one is going to be released only on Patreon. So we're going to get a Patreon exclusive Christmas special and a Patreon exclusive, just regular episode, full episode this month. That's going to be White Knight because since John was sick this last weekend as well, we released a different Patreon, which was fantastic for Full Circle. So we're going to do Batman White Knight this month for the Patreon exclusive main episode. And then we're going to also do a Christmas special that is going to be Lobo, I think it's called Paramilitary Christmas Special, what it's called. It's like a one-shot that came out in the 90s. So it's our first Lobo comic, so that's exciting. What do you think of that, John?
I'm pretty stoked, and I'm excited we're doing an extra special holiday gift for the patrons. So not only if you sign up for Patreon, patreon.com/Planes, Trains, and Comic Books, all one word. Not only are you getting our normal podcast, you're getting the Patreon exclusive podcast, and as a holiday gift, an extra holiday special Lobo Christmas from Planes, Trains, and Comic Books. So definitely, definitely want to check that out. And Patreon members exclusively get to vote on our second podcast of the month. So our normal podcast that we do for everybody, patrons get to pick that one as well. And our list, our patron picks this month is going to be the same kind of in that holiday-esque wintry vibe theme. We've got some fun ones on there. I think we've got The Last Christmas, Brian Posehn. There's I know you mentioned a couple. Looking for them. I know I wrote them.
Yeah, I got them. One. Okay, so we got. So like you said, Last Christmas by Brian Posehn. We got Krampus, The Shadow of Saint Nicholas by Michael Daughtry. Yeah, and then we got Klaus, How Santa Claus Began by Grant Morrison, and then we got Neil Gaiman, Snow, Glass, and Apples, which is like a Snow White kind of book. So the other 3 are about Santa Claus, and this was just kind of like a winter one. But yeah, all of these had good reviews, and I haven't read them, and you haven't read them. So wait, you've read Last Christmas, right?
I will say this is the first list that I've read one, but I have not read that one in like 10 plus years. Okay. So I'm totally down to get into it again. I just remember it being crazy bloody and awesome, and Santa Clausy, and Brian Posehn, so who I love his comedy, and I've enjoyed the comics that I've read from him in the past. So
yeah. So yeah, if you would like to vote on that episode and you thought one of these sounded cool, go to patreon.com/Planes, Trains, and Comic Books, all one word, and you will get to vote on that. And then we will do that on in 2 weeks, I guess, right? The next episode. And then I think we're doing the Christmas episode releases on Christmas week, right?
Yeah. So we'll do the main podcast will release. We do that every 2 weeks. So the next one that you guys will be voting on will be our next podcast in 2 weeks. And then our patrons will get their special podcast, end of the month is like normal.
Yeah, that's the White Knight. Yeah.
And then our Christmas podcast, we will release the week of Christmas, probably just like a day or two before, but during that week.
Yeah, like Christmas Eve or something. Yeah.
Yeah. So you guys have a chance to listen to it. So yeah, and the patrons, they'll get their email about that exclusively. So if you want to get that extra podcast, patreon.com.
Check it out. Yep. And the one we're gonna do for, I think we didn't say what we're gonna do for the main Christmas special, the main podcast Christmas special. We're going to do a Spider-Man book called Spider-Man Tangled Web Christmas Special. And this is actually written by Darwin Cook, which we love, and art by Jay Bone, who I love as well. So they complement each other very well. So that should be extra fun. I actually read this one last year because we were thinking about doing this one last year, and I just had it, and I was like, oh, I'll read it, and I loved it. So I can't wait for you to read that one, and then we'll do the episode. And it's a very Spider-Man-y Christmas. So
Heck yeah.
yeah. So with that being said, if you guys would like to email us, you can email us at Planes, Trains, and Comic Books, all one word, at gmail.com. And also check out our Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all that stuff, and our YouTube channel, where I do weekly reviews on new comics that come out, and every now and then I'll review a trade as well. So and then John every now and then does some like movie reviews and things like that, show reviews. So we're trying to keep that alive. And also check out my Hellblazer podcast on Patreon if you like Hellblazer. I'm going through all the episodes, or all the issues, as I say, from issue 1 to 300 of the main Hellblazer series. We're currently on issue 47 this week, so we're getting through it. And also, I got the Swamp Thing still going strong. We're on issue 113 of Swamp Thing. We're more than halfway through volume 2 of Swamp Thing, so I'm excited. We're getting into those later issues of that run. And then after that, it's just quick, there's only 6 volumes, right? So we're on volume 2. We just got, 4 more volumes after that. So yeah, I'm going to be doing this till I'm like 90 years old, but it's worth it. Damn it. Cause it's Swamp Thing. So with that being said, I think we will see you guys on the next one.
On the next one.
Bye.